Go to the NDI source. So probably right click on it, select transform.
Right.
Transform, edit, edit transform, change the bounding box type to scale inner bounds. Scale, yeah, the inner bounds.
Okay.
That should be it.
So now if I resize it, it'll stay resized.
So it says theory.
All right. Let's see if that'll work on mine too. Because you and I are the ones that do it all the time. And yeah.
Changes resolution based upon the network bandwidth, I guess.
Well, actually, the last one will be that active speaker one. This will be awesome. All right. We'll see if that works for us. That should be it, though.
Good.
What are you guys screwing with?
Oh,
This
yes.
is always changes as well. Did you fix this one up? I wasn't watching.
What's that?
Did you change this screen as well? I wasn't watching.
No, I didn't actually.
Because this is the one that jumps around often as well. Edit.
Am I on the right microphone?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah.
We're just
We're just doing our OBS thing here. John thinks he has our scaling issue resolved. Oh! Promise!
Stop it. What did you do?
I swear I'm on the wrong microphone.
Now you are.
Now you're on the wrong one.
What was it doing before? What the hell?
Oh! Jesus Christ, man.
Can't hear you now. Whatever you did is wrong.
Before you started touching anything, everything was fine. Now it's all going to shit.
Cannot hear you. At least it happened before the show this time instead of in right in the middle.
This may be a very, very short show. Nope. Thomas. No, not that. Whatever you're doing, stop doing that.
Stop doing whatever you're doing.
You had it. It was fine when we started. Whatever you started fiddling with is what broke it. How you doing, John?
Doing great. How are you doing, Eric?
Doing okay. Yeah, tons of stuff to talk about tonight.
Good.
All sorts of geeky things. I don't know if we'll actually get to it or not.
Check.
Hey, that's the wrong mic, but I mean, it's not all static.
I gotta reboot then.
Rebootski! We will wait for you.
You've got exactly 5 minutes if you're not back. we start the show without you.
He's already left.
Well,
Thomas Wright has left the building.
well, we're gonna have to probably restart the recordings then. So might as well stop local.
Stop local. Stopping local. If you have tuned in early, welcome. We'll get a little music playing for you here in the background while
We are
Get-
professionals.
little music. I don't know what's playing. Oh, yeah. It'd be nice if we could hear what was actually playing.
It would be.
We are addressing technical difficulties.
Couldn't you get Pretzel to feed into an audio source that would feed into
Skype.
Skype?
I mean, yeah, theoretically, I should be able to do that. Should be able to feed it into this mic, the mic for the OBS machine. I will work on that next week. For now, I would, because I don't want to be like Thomas during showtime and jacking around with this stuff and things breaking. I'll just go to the YouTube stream and see what's playing. We should just have Pencil run all the time. I feel. So if I do
He's back.
audio hijack here, he's back.
Hey,
Hey, talk again.
check.
It's
Not
not
the-
good.
Not the
Okay,
right mic.
One sec.
Oh god, here we go.
Hello.
It's not good. Tap your
How
mic.
about-
Is that
He's
the right
not-
mic? Tap on your mic.
No.
No.
No, my Skype's like majorly.
Okay, is this working?
Yep. But it's got a lot of background noise.
Yeah, there's a ton of background noise.
I think it's amplified. How's this?
It's still very background noisy. Just a constant hum. It's better now, whatever you did.
This is better.
No, whenever it picks up, it's just that's better.
That's better. No
Okay.
hump.
Yep.
All right.
Did you have a fan blowing right on the mic?
I guess the plug was just loose. Anyways,
All right, we want to try to start local recording again. We stopped
yes,
local recording,
please.
Thomas. All right, start local recording in 3, 2, 1. Clap check. 3, 2, 1. Cool. All right. Kick us off.
Your
John?
turn. You haven't done it in a while.
My turn.
Yep, your turn.
All right. You
Plus
guys
you're a
love it.
professional.
I'm a professional. All right, now I gotta actually open up my Trello board. What did I say? 152.
Yep.
You're listening to episode 152 of the PHP Ugly Podcast, the premier podcast for PHP developers, coders, and just general geeks. I, with my fellow colleagues and friends, bring you the news and just geekiness every week, no matter what. My name is Eric Van Johnson, and with me are my buddies, Thomas Rido,
Hello, glad to be here.
and my other buddy, John Kindon.
And now I was curious if I was a colleague or a friend.
Yeah, we haven't quite established that yet. We've been having a lot of back and forth about that lately, so I don't know. I do think
Go ahead. I was gonna say I learned that I was not a friend as of last night because I didn't take you out or do anything for your 50th birthday.
Oh, what? Did I
Sounds
ever
right.
say that? Did I?
No, you didn't.
Oh, all right. I was just saying.
Other people that matter in my life said it.
Oh,
My-
well, they're
my-
smart people. You should listen to them.
My wife told me I was not a very good friend because I didn't take you to dinner.
No big deal. But yeah,
I'll buy you a beer tomorrow at the game. Which is why
Great.
we're recording a night early.
we are recording a night early because John and I are going to watch baseball tomorrow night. So, yay, baseball!
Yay, baseball.
How are the Padres doing? Is it as bad as it always is?
They started off great.
Yeah, not so great now, but yeah, they're still worth going to see. So I think I'm going to
We
splurge.
get to go. Hang on. I'm going to finish that story and then you can go on. We're going to go hang with our buddies at Psionics in the thing. Whatever it's called. The booth, the box,
The box, the skybox.
the area.
You bought your buddy from Psionics lunch today, by the way. I should tell you that. I'm sorry you weren't there to appreciate it.
Yeah. I did not know. I didn't know I did know you were going down there.
You did.
Anyway.
Oh, you know what? We still got music playing. I'm sorry, Thomas, when you are editing this, there's background music playing that I just turned off. I apologize.
Perfect.
So I think after 152 episodes, I'm
It's time to say goodbye.
figuring it's time to take some of that Patreon money and splurge on like a Fiverr intro or something so that we can have some consistency with the intro of our show because it's horrible. Not that the rest of the show is much better, but you can give people that 30 seconds of hope that it's going to be a good show with a good intro, and then they just don't turn it off because it's just too difficult to turn off at that point.
It's already playing.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to. I need to figure out. I don't know how big of a deal it is anymore. Of like, if you understand the way we do our intro now, the whole idea behind it was this thought that people listening to the podcast needed to associate the voice with the name. So that's why we do the intros, and whoever we're introing says something, so that while you're listening to the podcast, you have a reference of who that is. But I think with the fact that we're doing so much streaming now, and streaming is like become like a regular thing for us, that if people are really interested in who is who, they can watch the stream and figure that out. Otherwise, whatever. They'll figure it out.
Well, that was a funny explanation. I don't know why. It tickled me.
What's funny is watching Thomas lose his mind here. I don't know what's happening.
Talk to my children.
Sorry. Hey guys.
Hey, children.
Hi. Keep the kicking ears.
No.
So, did you not start the show with your little baseball clip of somebody saying something about ugly?
Well, no, we didn't start the show at all because somebody wanted to try to fix images on OBS.
Well, and then I tried to fix my audio, and it got more broken.
Yeah, that was a terrible idea. So no. To answer your question, John, we didn't do our little slide into the show where the football player says it's about to get real, real ugly.
Anyway, you said you had a lot of geeky stuff to talk about today. What were you bringing in?
Oh man, Okay. Well, let me talk about my one non-geeky thing. First thing, I'm gonna try to live reposition my camera here, so because this active view seems to be working, so I like this. So talk about my one non-geeky thing, and I don't know how much of a conversation we want to have around this. It was a very interesting experience for me, and one that I had not really. I don't know what I had expected, but not this. Um, my wife and I went to a benefits show last night to benefit the LGBT. I don't know. There may be a couple other letters I'm missing there. LGBT. There was another letter. North County Q. There you go. Q. North County Center, which is where both my daughters do volunteer work. They actually run support groups for various youths. My one daughter, Emily, I think she has a support group of. I think hers might be a little younger than Alyssa's, Allie's support group. I think they're older teenagers. Anyways, they run support groups for the youth up there. That whole center had a fundraiser last night, and it was this drag show. And the wife and I had always talked about going to drag shows because they looked very entertaining to us, and we just never.
You would look great in drag.
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. But you always see him in the movies, and I guess that's kind of what I expected, like a bunch of drag queens up there singing, and that is kind of what it was like. But man, it had first thing. This was a completely 21 and over event. It was held at a really cool place here called the Billy Up, which Thomas, you're obviously very aware of. It's down the street
Absolutely.
from where we live.
My wife used to book shows there.
First time I'd ever been there. Matter of fact, we're looking to go to a couple more shows. There's going to be a Johnny Cash cover band playing there, and Dennis Quaid's bringing his band there. So now the wife and I are talking about, hey, the venue was fantastic. We're talking about going there more often. But anyways, alcohol was being served. This whole event, I told my wife, I'm like, this is pretty close to a strip club. Like, my wife has never been to a strip club, and this was pretty close to a strip. People are just like wadding up bills and throwing money on stage, and articles of clothing are coming off for certain acts, depending on what the act was. But it was quite entertaining, man. I have to. I had a good time. There was a couple, like, of course, I lean more towards the comedy, and there was one that now we're going to go hunt that particular performer down. I'm not actually sure how the proper way to address them. The Queen, I think they like to be called Queens, has their own show. I got to go see her because it was hysterical. The act was hysterical, and then I guess the one of the hosts was some big celebrity in the drag queen community. She won RuPaul's drag queen TV show, whatever it is. I forget. My daughter absolutely loves them. She's been trying to catch her act for a while. My daughter has gone to a couple of drag shows where this person was supposed to perform, and for whatever reason, hasn't. But they were there last night, and the wife got a picture, and it was very entertaining. So first off, it might be entertaining for me because I really don't have an issue with that. I'm very secure with my manhood, with my sexuality, and who I am and who I'm with. So none of that stuff freaks me out. So I like that aspect of it. But just the performance, I mean, mad respect for their skills, their athleticism, and their performance. Crazy good performers. I enjoyed it. So I don't know why I needed to share that. I just share shit like that with you guys. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I saw a picture that you posted from the event. It looked like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I'd
posted
Belly Up.
posted some more this morning too. So
I'd been to the
Oh.
Belly Up once for some sort of fundraiser as well, and it really is a nice place. And I hear they get a lot of big acts, but it's a really small venue. Like Snoop Dogg will perform there, and other really big names.
that was the thing that surprised me is how small the venue. It was small, but man, it fit a lot of people in there. I mean, the place got packed. But yeah, I'm with you. And like the parking when we pulled up, I'm like, we just happened to get parking like right in front, like a couple of stores down from where the belly up was. I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna park here because I don't know what the parking situation is, but it didn't seem like it was that bad. I don't know. I had a good
Yeah, it's
time.
not bad. There's a back parking lot too, for
Oh, is
spillover. Yeah.
Oh. All right, so yeah, that was my. Okay, if you're interested, check out my Twitter, Shocum SHOCM, and I have pictures from last night, and then I posted some more this morning. Fun stuff. Yeah. So Thomas, I made a huge boneheaded podcaster mistake this morning, and I couldn't believe I'd done this.
Is it as bad as me recording at the wrong bit rate and having to re-edit the podcast again and again and again?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll
it
answer
might be-
for him. Yeah, it's worse.
Might be worse, yeah. So John and I are doing the PHP Architect podcast this morning, and a great topic, great author, fun conversation. And when we record for PHP Arc, we had used it a little bit for PHP Ugly. We use that Zencaster, but we use it for the PHP Architect because you never know who you're talking to. Like, not everybody's a podcaster, right? So we want to break out streams, and trying to get people to understand how to record on their local machine is challenging. So we just use Zencaster, and it works pretty well because they're usually like just 20-minute interviews or something like that. Got everything set up. We go into our whole interview thing, wrap everything up. Yeah, I forgot to record the entire interview.
And we just lost your audio.
My audio?
No, Eric's. Oh, he's back now.
I switched over because I thought he did a spit take there for a second. I was hoping to catch him wiping his mouth or something. Yeah, totally forgot to record everything.
So luckily, like just before we started recording, we started our local, and he decided to record the browser window, which he doesn't normally do for these interviews. So he does have a backup, but throughout the interview, we interviewed Robert Allen over in the UK, and there are a handful of times in the interview where his internet was just glitchy, so he sounded like a robot talking to us, and that's how it's going to come through on that recording. Whereas Zencaster would have got the local and hopefully missed all of that.
Yeah, so I screwed that one up, but
Yeah, but at least you screwed it up in a funny way that makes this podcast better.
that's what's important, right? And I think John's the fan of serverless architecture now. That was a great conversation we had with him.
I know you've talked about it before, and you've actually messed around with Lambda a little bit, but just I haven't taken the time because when I work on so many legacy applications that it doesn't make any sense for a legacy application. But hearing him talk, I was like, maybe this is something to really consider. So
yeah, and I think again, spoiler, if you want to wait for the PHP Architect interview to come out, but one of the things that he said that really resonated with me, because I asked him specifically thoughts of using frameworks within these serverless architectures, and he quite simply said not really a smart idea, and that's something he would recommend. And
Really?
yeah, I think I see. He said that pulling in components, like using Composer and pulling in components, makes a lot of sense, but throwing a framework at it is just too much overhead for these serverless sort of applications.
I had heard that it can get expensive if the overhead's not well managed.
Well, you're also looking at developing in a completely different style. We're used to building these applications where with the Lambda functions, you're really small, discrete components, and you're really looking to use services, uh, third-party services as much as possible instead of you writing it. So he brought up like the router that you could use something like the AWS API gateway instead of a router.
Hmm.
He also doesn't use frameworks in general. He's been a big fan of the Slim framework, which basically gives you dependency injection and the router.
And that's
And,
Symphony based, right?
I don't think
no.
I don't think Slim is. Is it?
It might. No, I don't remember. It was part of another big framework, I thought. Yeah. And then Slim framework was, the small version. But it's been years since I've even looked at it. But yeah, listen to it. It's like I really want to do a sample application just to try it out.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to reassess my approach to serverless, and I'd really like to try to at least build a couple of components that we could leverage. I mean, we're constantly building these little microservices now for a client, and it just seems to me like this would be a perfect example of where I just write this one little component, throw it on a serverless architecture, and be done with it. So,
Yeah.
fun stuff.
Listen-
Yeah, I think.
Listen to that podcast because there's a lot of little nuggets on how to think about writing serverless architecture or writing code for serverless architecture.
And the interview's great.
The interview is actually great. Even
We might get to record it a second time.
even things like portability, we address that. So make sure you listen to it. Hopefully it'll be out. The idea is to get that one out in time for PHP Tech, which John will be at next week. What are we doing next week while you're at Tech? Or are we recording or not?
Well, you might be recording without me.
That's
You're not going to put in the effort? For shame.
Yeah, I'll tote my microphone across the country just for one podcast.
Just take your little boom mic. Take your little boom mic. You have a little boom mic for your headset.
No, I don't.
You're so not a team player.
Well, let's see. What time would it be? I'd be recording at midnight there.
No, I'll do it early for you. I mean, it's up to Thomas. Thomas is the reason why we record so late. I want to record during the day, man.
What fun is that?
Well, that might work. Well, that'd be Thursday night. It would be recording, and then I got to wake up bright and early for a flight on Friday morning.
Friday
We'll
morning.
We don't have to think. We don't have to think about it right now. We'll figure it out.
It's true. We do work best under pressure. I got something this week.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
Yes, I got my copy of Windows 10 Pro.
Oh, it has begun.
Yes.
Are you moving over?
I am. I'm going to be, after this podcast, in fact, installing it on the laptop that never works correctly and see if it fixes it.
So we might not have a show next week after all because Thomas won't have a laptop to record on.
What's
So
interesting
you're-
is the box.
Boot it? Are you gonna dual boot, or are you gonna
No.
just switch over?
I'm just going to switch over.
Good man.
But on the top, it has stamped Origin Ireland. And I thought, oh, that's weird. And then I remembered that all the big tech companies say they're in Ireland so that they don't have to pay any taxes to anybody. And that's annoying.
Only the big ones that can afford to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
We're supporting it.
So I have the drama continues. Before I even go into this, I haven't switched. I haven't done anything. I'm still using PHP Storm, although it's getting very, very appealing to switch again. I shared a video. John actually happened to be in the office with me when I was watching a video, and they announced a ton of new features that are coming to VS Code, Microsoft's VS Code, and PHP Storm, JetBrains, you guys were the market leader for so long. You were you put a bunch of things in your toolkit that other people had tried and didn't do very well. You did well, but you've kind of stagnated. You guys really need to think about adding features to PHP Storm. VS Code. We talked last week about how there's going to be an online version, or last week or the week before, I forget when, and you can already create a online version yourself today. But Microsoft is releasing an official online version that you can log into. We already know about this stuff. That's all pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to that happening. But now, where I was talking about the problem I was having, and I was trying to overcome this problem of I'm using multiple systems. I'm trying to keep everything in sync, all my repos in sync, and I'm trying not to use Dropbox because of the history we've had. We know Dropbox is kind of a pain when it comes to that. So I was looking for a better way of doing that. And now, freaking VS Code might have a solution. They're coming out with, it's out now. If you are in the VS Code world, you know that you can actually do VS Code Insider, and VS Code Insider is the bleeding edge of VS Code. So it gets all the features, and then Microsoft kind of lets the features play out for a while. So like the whole live share was in the Insider edition for a long time. It eventually made its way into the main code base. But they're releasing two very cool features. One really appealed to me, where you actually connect your VS Code to a remote server, and then you do your work locally on your machine, but everything it does, all the processing it's doing is on that remote server. So all the files and everything are on the remote server. If you're running like your PHP unit test or anything like that, that's all on the remote server, and you do your little port forwarding back to your local machine.
Are they providing the server?
No. You provide the server. It's just an SSH connection. It works over SSH. Well, it works over SSH. There were a couple solutions. SSH was the one that appealed to me. So you provide the server, and basically, the way they say you have your development server out there, and now instead of pushing your code to your development server, you just keep your code on your development server. You hook VS Code into it, and you're in that server now. Everything you're doing in your code base, all the auto completions and things like that, it's doing based on the code that's on the server. So that was very cool.
That is pretty nice. I like that.
And they're essentially doing the same thing for Docker. So again, if you're running Docker containers, the VS Code connects inside the container, so you're no longer having to go through these Docker commands to do things into the container. So the VS Code is connecting into the container. So yeah, very, very cool stuff. I'll find that video and I'll attach it in the show notes. Super, super cool stuff. I don't know, John, did you watch any of that? Did you have any thoughts on that?
I was watching it along with you, and I don't have the issue. I guess I've been using multiple machines for so long that I always push my code up and very rarely have that issue of needing to get code that I don't have access to.
Yeah, what's your problem, Eric?
It just seems like,
jeez.
I guess it's just the overhead of getting all that set up. just seems like a pain in the ass to me.
Well, it was more than just addressing my issue as well. It was addressing the issue of versions, using the right version, having the right extensions enabled, your PHP INI file being configured consistently. I mean, for me, it was about the remote accessibility, but the reasoning for the feature it is a lot more complete.
Promise, somebody's going to do this in production. They're going to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're gonna be like,
That's gonna happen.
Oh my god. That is the
no.
worst thing I've heard all week.
No, that's happening without question. That's happening. Yeah, I'm looking through my YouTube now, trying to even find it. Holy crap! I watch a lot of YouTube. Man. I gotta stop watching so much YouTube. I've done good. I done good getting away from it for a while. Then I'm back into it again.
I saw a good YouTube video on how to do that.
Oh, good. I'll check it out.
The big takeaway I had was that VS Code is way more customizable than I thought. Like they seem to be as customizable as PHP Storm is.
Oh yeah, without doubt, as customizable, and I would venture to say more customizable. I would venture to say that. Here it is. I found it. Let me throw this on Trello for you guys to. Oh. All right, cool, man.
So I had a very surreal experience today.
Okay.
I went and registered my kid for kindergarten.
Yeah, beginning of the end, right there, buddy. Beginning of the end.
It was very interesting. Very like I said, just surreal. Like he's moving on to bigger and better things. He doesn't need me anymore.
Yeah, pretty soon he'll have a job and a car.
Yeah, that's about as quickly as it happens. Let me tell you.
You know what insurance is on those little Tykes bumper cars? Outrageous.
No, super happy for him. He's excited about it.
I was about to say, is he looking forward to it?
Going into it, he was very hesitant. Like, no, I don't want to. I'm not going. But once we got there, he settled right in, talked to the administrative assistant that we met with, and then we started touring the school. And she did a really good job of, I'll give you a map to the school, which he's all about maps. Give him that. He's super happy. But then on top of that, she's like, I'm going to give you a few things to look for. And she wrote down, look for the lunch tables in this room and the kindergarten playground. So now he's all excited about walking around the school looking for these things. And
it's almost like she does this for a living. She knows how to deal with young people or something.
That gave me a
Sounds like she handled John pretty well, actually.
Oh, I tell you what, John, I don't know how it was for, I know your kid's in preschool. I don't know how it was for preschool, but the first day of kindergarten, you will never see so many adults cry at one time and like nobody be dead. Like there's so many adults crying the first day of kindergarten. It's crazy.
Meanwhile, I'm just going to drop him and say, go, get out here.
That's the best thing to do, man. Just drop them off.
All right, we'll get back to actual code stuff. While we were watching that video you referenced before, I was sitting there trying to get Xdebug working in my Docker container because for some reason I'll have it working great for a while and then all of a sudden it blows up and just gets frustrating. And it always comes back to I have the wrong environment variable or something set up where it's not connecting back to the proper remote host.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while I was looking at that, what do I see? But Xdebug advertising in the PHP INI file that they accept Patreon money. They have a Patreon account that supports Derek, the maintainer of
Really?
Xdebug. And I was like, wow, I guess, we are content creators in developing open source projects. So it's not really just YouTubers or podcasters. So It was fun. I mean, he's got fun little, like, no real gifts for the levels, but like if you're using this on a somewhat regular basis, I would recommend $5 a month. And if you are a corporation that uses this for all your developers, daily, then obviously you should be contributing a little bit more.
And I mean, that is such a perfect use case too, because how many big corporations out there aren't paying for an expensive debug tool because they're using Xdebug and have never kicked back a penny to the developer of it?
Mm-hmm.
You know? But yeah, John showed that to me. I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. It's weird where you're seeing Patreon stuff pop up. It's weird where Patreon pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like healthcare.
Or podcast streams that are going live right now. Just saying. But so again, if you want to see this, you should have done a screenshot, John. But if you want to see this, if you just do a PHP info and you have Xdebug enabled, I imagine it should just show up, right, John? There was nothing else you did.
It was actually, yeah, it wasn't on the console. It was within the PHP info that you can show up on the web on a browser. So, yeah. Well, there's also a link in the show notes. Go support Derek. He's a good guy.
Oh, there's a link in the show notes? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I put it down on the list.
Oh, a link to his Patreon. Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yep. Not the
nice
shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
There's some other coding news this week.
What?
Tailwind is 1.0 officially.
I think this is a big deal. I have been interviewing and talking to a lot of front-end developers recently, and I am surprised how few don't even have Tailwind on their radar yet. And I think a lot of that is from the fact that it didn't have a stable release. But we've been giving some focus to Tailwind on a project, and it seems to be the same cycle with everybody involved. There's initial pushback. There's initial, this doesn't really make sense, and then there's like, this is really cool. This answers
bargaining and then acceptance.
Yeah. We have. I feel like I've completely converted one of our friend developers who's working on a larger project over to Tailwind, where I can now ask him for something, and he just does it. He's like gotten over the learning curve is pretty quick. I have another developer working on a smaller project who I'm introducing to Tailwind, and it's kind of the same thing. He actually started with nothing, pointed him to a couple of videos, explained to him a couple of the concepts, and he's already starting to produce things with it. So I like Tailwind. And again, the only reason I like it is because, as much of an idiot as I am with front-end design and being able to implement front-end stuff, I'm able to do it in Tailwind because every little piece I feel like I have control over, and I don't have to create these individual components for. So I don't know.
I just like the fact that I can say rounded and something gets rounded.
Yeah.
It handles some of the more complicated pain in the ass stuff.
Yeah.
I remember when you got into an argument with one of the developers over it, and it's just like, just do it my way. Try it. Just back down a little bit.
That doesn't sound like me. Are you sure that was me?
Yeah, you're right. Would have been way more aggressive.
That doesn't sound like Eric.
So we actually talked about something that ended up being a little bit more controversial than I think we even anticipated it being.
That
We
doesn't sound
talked
like us.
we talked about, and I want to apologize ahead of time because I tried to follow up and understand the current state of this. And again, I struggle. I struggle trying to understand where things currently are. But we talked about the removal of the PHP short tags a couple shows back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out that was actually a point of discussion on the internals, the PHP internals podcast. First thing, I found out some really cool things. Like for an RFC to pass, it needs a super majority. So it's not over 50%. For an RFC to pass, it needs 2/3 of the votes to pass.
Yeah.
So it's called a super majority. And I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of cool. Well, it turns out that with the RFC for the short tags, first thing, part of the confusion and part of the controversy is that the RFC was broken down into like two RFCs, one to deprecate and one to remove. And like the one to remove passed, but the one to deprecate didn't pass, which was weird, right?
What?
It became this really weird thing. And then the one to remove like passed with 67% of the votes, and it needed 66%. So it actually passed with less than one vote, but it passed. Like technically, it passed, and they looked to like there was some talk about overturning it, and that really stirred things up. They're like, wait a minute, this passed with a supermajority. We're not going to overturn the RFC voting because otherwise, why do we have voting? And that was like where a lot of this controversy was happening. And some of the concerns were being brought up around the security of it, and I think some things we talked about where it's not always obvious where the security, where somebody might not be using short tags. So I kind of I lost sight of what that current status of that RFC is. I was trying to read up on it, but yeah, it became like a controversial topic, and there was some, I don't know, I don't want to say mudslinging, but I'm going to say mudslinging going on because like like one of the things that people were accused of passing the RFC just because they wanted to show that a non-developer could contribute to the core. I guess the person who created this RFC,
Really?
wasn't a developer, so he or wasn't a core developer. I think he's a PHP developer, and this was just like one of the things. He does a lot of things with like documentations, and he does have a previous RFC that he put in that removed some Travis testing or something weird like that. And there was some mumblings of, well, we just want to make it look like people can contribute to core without being a coder. And that seemed like sour grapes if that was really said. I never saw that evidence. So if that was said, that must have been said in like some Slack channel somewhere, because I was reading the internals and I didn't see that said in the internals, but there's so much chatter that goes on there. I could have missed it. So I don't know what the state of that RFC is anymore. I don't know if they're still talking about removing it. There was talk about a longer deprecation period. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that anymore. But it was, if you're interested, go listen to the PHP internals podcast, and I'll find it, put in the show notes exactly which one it was, because it was very insightful to hear about how that whole voting process works and what it takes to get things to pass. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. And
I have show notes.
I wonder why it was split into two different RFCs, and because you would think the one to remove it would also include, deprecate in 7.4, remove in 8, which is what I thought we had discussed the last time we talked about it.
Right, and I think in hindsight, they kind of acknowledged that was a mistake. That it should have just all been one RFC to kind of reduce some of this controversy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it was why it. He might. I think he explains in the show. If you want to go listen to it, he might explain in the show why he did too at the time.
And
And
it
they
could also come down to there's a voting period, so it's not necessarily the same voters for one RFC to the next, right?
right.
So it's 67% of the people that vote during that time, not 67% of the eligible voters.
Right. Exactly.
So it must have been different timing on when voting was opened for those two different RFCs. Just a guess. I really have no clue.
Mm-hmm. I believe you are correct.
So I was looking through my email today, and I guess there's some sort of new vulnerability that's out there. The micro-architectural data sampling vulnerability.
Yes.
And if you have, DigitalOcean is the one that sent the email, and they are admitting that it's an issue, and they're telling you how to go update the kernels and make sure your machines are up to date while they also work on things on their end. Just bringing it up so people know about it, and make sure you keep your machines up to date.
Well, and there is a performance impact from patching your system. This is similar to the Spectre issue that happened a while ago, where there are problems with Intel's architecture fundamentally, and these take advantage of those vulnerabilities. So, good day for AMD, but bad day for Intel, because this is the third such hardware level vulnerability that's been found.
Wow. So the change to get around that is being fixed in software versus fixed in hardware. Is that why there's a performance hit?
Yes.
Interesting.
It's only like a 2 to 3% performance impact. There was concern that Intel would have to disable hyperthreading to actually defend against it, but that didn't end up being necessary. But the vulnerability is called zombie load.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's rough.
I wonder, I'm assuming that there are known attacks against it. I wonder how quickly should people be worried about getting their machines patched? Guess I know what I'm doing tonight.
There is a proof of concept that will pull up your private browsing history out of the CPU. And it does allow the stealing of keys, sensitive data and keys.
So that's the bigger concern on a cloud provider or a server provider like DigitalOcean, not so much your browser history.
Yeah, it looks like the cloud systems are particularly vulnerable because if you're on the cloud, you can execute the program or execute the script and get other cloud users' information from it.
Gotcha. So it's somewhat remote, not somebody attacking my server per se. It's wherever they get their own server set up, and then attacking other people's machines that are running on the same hardware.
Yes. Apparently the Linux version of the exploit requires root privilege, but there is a Windows version of the exploit that does not require any privileges.
Well, I mean, once you get you spin up a virtual machine, you have root privileges, right?
Yeah.
So that's the concern is you get a free machine at DigitalOcean, you're on some random hardware, you run the exploit, they have access to whoever happens to be on that same hardware. If I'm understanding it correctly.
It seems like it.
Mm. Fascinating. We need an ops person, Eric.
John, I'm more concerned about the fact that you just did doom and gloom. I mean, that's terrifying me.
Speaking of doom and gloom,
Speaking of doom and gloom,
Adobe has sent out emails to people using old versions of their Creative Cloud applications, notifying them that now that that old version is no longer supported, using it could make them vulnerable to being sued.
sued? What?
Yes.
Wait. The old versions are the ones where you paid outright and you basically had a perpetual license, right? You
Yes.
own the software.
You didn't own the software. You bought the right to use the software indefinitely until they notified people today that the indefinite term was now over.
What?
The email says, we have recently discontinued certain older versions of Creative Cloud applications, and as a result, under the terms of our agreement, you are no longer licensed to use them. Please be aware that should you continue to use the discontinued versions, you may be at risk of potential claims of infringement by third parties.
Mm-hmm.
By third parties.
Not sure what that means, but still pretty weirdly shitty thing to do.
That doesn't make sense.
Why would a third party sue you for using their old product?
I think they're claiming that they are the third party that would sue you.
Oh.
But in that context, they're not a third party.
I have no idea.
You're doing Gloom is confusing me. Yeah. Well, he's making the story fit doom and gloom, but
Well, I mean,
at the same time, very confusing.
That's a pretty awful way to treat customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's you talked about it. I think on the show a little while back, Thomas, about Microsoft discontinuing their book program, and now all these books that people might have bought on Microsoft service that you thought you owned, guess what? You don't own it anymore.
Yep. In that case, though, Microsoft did refund everybody.
Right.
But still, they just took it away.
Did they actually refund them what they paid for the book? And
I believe so.
yeah, and I tell you, the wife and I were looking through all the movies I have on Google's movie service, and I mean that's an example of wow. It's not like. I mean, it's Google, right? They never just drop a service for no apparent reason that people seem to enjoy using. So I can't imagine.
Yeah, I've never heard of that happening.
It going away, but they were if they were to go away, that's a lot of money for me. I mean, that's my whole library right now of anything recent, anything within the last 5 years. I just got the video version of it or the digital version of it. So.
Interestingly enough, piracy doesn't have that problem.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, I still have everything I want to keep.
Yeah? Include the fear of being thrown into a prison cell.
No. Don't got that one.
That doesn't worry. That doesn't worry. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. No, I mean it may be a very, very real solution of figuring out a way to pirate the movies you think you own, Maybe I should have been doing that the whole time, getting the DVD copies and just ripping them. I'm sure that's still a thing, right?
That is still a thing. It takes an absurd amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. The wife wanted to watch the whole MCU universe in order of the
Oof.
event that happened. She's been clicking through it at a pretty steady pace. She had to skip Captain Marvel because that's not out yet. So technically, Captain Marvel follows the first Avenger, the Captain America movie, if you go in sequence. So it should be Captain America, Captain Marvel. But so she had to skip that one, but she's burning through them. I think she's up to. I think she just started on Thor, so she's kind of gotten through the Iron Man, the Hulk. She's getting into Thor now.
That a bunch of MCU stuff showed up last night while I was playing trivia, doing bar trivia.
Yeah.
Which
And,
you won, didn't you?
Huh?
Did you win last night?
We indeed did end up winning. The people next to us
Yes,
were
John, we did win. Thank you for
the
that.
people next to us
Yeah, I
were
saw
quite
it on
upset
the.
that there were so many MCU questions that they didn't know because they were old people.
Well, I saw it on the local news and was impressed.
$300. Not a bad
Split
haul.
Split 8 ways, right?
Split 4 ways.
There you go. All you have to do is kill one of the people in the back alley, and you can just split it 3 ways. You're good.
That was a
So-
triumphant win for sure.
Cost them $90 to get into it, but hey, you got 75 back.
Well, no, there's
So-
no entry fee, but it's at a bar, so it does cost quite a bit of money to play.
I was about to say $150 in beer and appetizers. Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody, really.
Yeah.
Well, what were some of the questions? Come on, I want to know how good I am at it.
The MCU question I was thinking of was what is the most poorly reviewed movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with one reviewer saying the relationship between Thor and Loki was more convincing than between Natalie Portman and Thor.
Well, I mean that narrows it down right there. But so it has to be the second one, right? The Dark World.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we did quite well. We had a sort of dream team built up of tech nerd, game nerd, sport nerd, and general trivia.
It's good way to round that out. Well, I'm
Yes.
looking forward to hanging out with my sport nerds tomorrow. Even bringing the wife with us. The wife is actually crashing guys' night. It's typically guys' night when we go to the ball game, but they're playing the Pirates, so
I've
got-
met your wife. I wouldn't say she's crashing. I would say she's contributing significantly to guys' night. She's very similar to my wife. brings the energy.
Yes, I like we like to call it energy. That's what we call it because it easier later. No, I do. My wife is from the Pittsburgh area. She's always been a Pirates fan, which as an Orioles fan, and the Pirates beat the Orioles in the World Series. I've learned to overcome that hostility, but
Overcome it or just live with it.
live with it. Live with it. Kind of like the way I'm trying to come to grips with the fact that Psionics stole one of our best developers, poached them right out from underneath of us, and
Yeah, I'm sure the
pretty
rest of our developers love hearing that.
pretty sure that their CEO had a hand in it somehow. Pretty sure. Can't prove anything yet, but records will be unsealed at some point.
I'm more upset that I interviewed at the same time he did, and he got accepted over me.
I'm upset that I didn't know that until now.
It hurts so bad. I mean, it just hurts so bad.
It's not true, but it's funny as hell.
So funny. Oh yeah, Ha ha! We're so funny.
So Eric starts
Oh,
getting the
man.
rage shakes.
Good thing I'm working from home tomorrow. I don't have to face them.
So you're going to tech next week, huh? How fun is that?
I'm excited. Leave Monday morning.
Do you have your tracks picked out already?
I do not.
No tracks, right? There aren't really tracks, are there?
Oh, 3 tracks.
That's the whole thing. Is you have the API track, you have the testing track, the professional PHP track, security track. That's how they changed it up this year. Is it's like you could go
I see.
room. Yeah,
You kind of stick with one topic the whole conference.
if you want to. I mean, they have it where you can bounce around if you want. So you know what's going on during each hour or 50-minute segment.
Mm-hmm.
So you're free to bounce around.
You gonna have PHP stickers to give out?
I hope so. I have some. Yes, I do have some. I need to make
We
sure.
have a ton here at the office if you need some.
Yeah, make sure I have my bag full. We need some more SDPHP stickers, by the way. I was asked again. I forgot.
I know. I have a bag of them at home. I need to find them and bring them in. So I'll do that. I'll do that this week. I promise.
All right. Mark, you heard it here. Sorry that I forgot this month. Oh, man. What else you got going on? Or is it time to wrap it up?
I got nothing else. I was sick, so this is as worn out as my throat can get.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, I guess I'm good. I don't have anything else.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone, for listening. See, I know how to wrap this up.
You
Moving on.
do not know how to wrap it up.
This is why we need to get the Fiverr. We need the intro and the outro because this is horrible. All right.
Listening to episode 152 of PHP Ugly.
152 PHP Ugly.
Done.
I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
I'm Tom Rideout.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly. Hey, you know what I remembered to do?
What did you remember to do?
To change my project hertz rate. So that it's 40.
What's going on with your mic, man? What are you doing? Are you changing settings or something?
Yeah, it like loses whatever the default microphone is supposed to be.
I'm stopping local, by the way.
I already did, so good call.
Yeah, so I set the correct hertz rate, and then I had to reboot my machine.
Yes.
And then you forgot to change again?
Yep.
I hope this Windows fixes it.
Me too. I'm getting so tired of
I'm
this
dumping
machine.
this in the folder right now, Thomas. I feel bad every time I forget to do that. So I'm dumping it right now.
So,
Huh?
I'm gonna
What?
keep the project instead of just the MP3 and see if that helps.
Dude, I don't know what's going on with Simplecast. If we don't have our Simplecast back by tomorrow, I'm gonna have to open up a ticket with them because yeah, I no longer have access to it. It just keeps coming up saying, "Oh, hey, we're migrating your podcasts." But LaraChat it migrated. It already finished migrating. It did that one fairly quickly.
Yeah, they said, this is way too ugly. We need to stop it now.
Pretty much it.
I mean, what's the difference? I don't.
The number of shows is the only difference I can think of. I mean, LaraChat had. I don't think they even had 100 shows. I don't know how many shows they had, but yeah, we're up to 152 now, but 151 is there. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll give it to the morning and if it's not done by then, I will reach out to them. Fortunately, if you go to phpugly.com, all of our shows still show up. They still all play, so they're still there. But like if you go to Simplecast, it says that it's migrating, and it only has one episode. I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean one episode? Yep. The Lair Chat Live only had 39 episodes, and PHP Ugly is just showing as having one episode. So this is going to be interesting.
Huh.
Let's see what happens.
You
So
guys
did
follow
our-
this? You guys follow this Alabama abortion law thing?
My wife is
Oh,
absolutely
God.
beside herself on it. She is so upset over it. She's
Heartbeat, you can't abort.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
okay.
6 weeks basically,
Yeah.
which I mean is bonkers.
yeah. You know, I mean, look at our just political system just in general. It's insane. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I
we don't
keep-
talk politics.
I keep pulling up the news expecting to see something good, and it never is.
Listen, I told Beck, I'm like, I've given up. Everybody still talks about impeachment. I'm like, after everything this guy's done, if he hasn't been impeached, they're not going to impeach him.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, he can't do anything worse than what he's done. So, I don't know.
well, I mean the situation now that with the taxes though, where they just said no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's totally bonkers. That
Well, and especially when he's the one that led the charge around Obama.
yeah,
When Obama didn't release his taxes like the day of, you know,
his birth certificate.
well, the birth certificate was a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah,
And that's the other thing. It's like, you know, he keeps talking about how he's persecuted. Never has a president ever been accused of something so false. Yeah, don't you remember you're the one that accused the other president about not being born in the U.S.? You still don't let that go.
yeah.
Oh my God! Don't get me started. Don't get me started, Thomas.
I apologize. All right, guys.
All right, man. I hope you feel better. I didn't realize you weren't feeling well.
Oh, I'm not that bad off anymore. It's just that my voice is totally screwed up.
All right. All right. Well, you guys take it easy. Appreciate you accommodating us, Thomas.
Of course. Have fun at the game. And say hi to Spence for me.
Will do.
Will do.
Bye.
Bye.